Hi everyone, Donna here with Bookkeeping Made Simple. This is the Bookkeeping Made Simple podcast in which we talk about everything to do with business from payroll, accounting, bookkeeping, taxation, all the things nobody wants to talk about, to your mindset, nutrition, and what you have to do to be healthy enough and mentally tough enough to run a small business and hopefully make it into a bigger business, whatever it is that your dream is. So today I want to talk about something that's kind of a hot topic for me personally, and that is why some people get paid more than others. I have been told that it's not fair that I make more than say a bus driver. And I have a really hard time with that. We see this meme that goes around all the time that says, why are football players paid more than the military? Well, and the same thing for small business. Why do some small businesses grow? Why do some do not? Why some people go to college and cannot make money afterwards, and why some people can. So there's a lot of reasons why people make more than others. And one of the things I really want to talk about is, one, I want to talk a little bit about it's all about choices. There are times when the deck is kind of stacked against you. If I started off with a lot of money for marketing, I could already have had a huge business, right? But the fact is that I've invested, I have educated myself on the things that I know that I need to know, how to be a good leader, how to market, how to do these videos, which is an ongoing thing, how to, I have a master's in accounting, I have an MBA, and I didn't finish my education until I was in my 50s. So it's not like this is, like I've had a long time to do this. Here's what's really important. If you want to be successful in life, you have to make the decision to be successful in life. And that means that if you go to college, you have to choose a major that's going to give you the ability to open doors. My youngest child, my son, is currently majoring in mechanical engineering. Why? Because he knows that engineers, especially Boeing, I'm going to pick on them, are in high demand. Good engineers are in high demand. So there's a couple of things that you need to do if you really want to make a lot of money, whether it's in a career or in a business. One, decide how you bring value. This is really how and why you get paid. You bring value by providing a valuable service or creating a valuable product. Sometimes you don't know if it's valuable till it gets going. Steve Jobs was great about presenting the iPhone as a way of having a whole computer in your pocket. So with that, you could, I have more computing power in this than we went to the moon with in 69. So he figured out a way to pull in components from some of his competitors, present it in a different way, and make it accessible to everyone. Same thing with Microsoft. Bill Gates didn't even believe that there would be a computer in every home, and today I'm sitting here with 3 computers in my office, and it's just me. And that's just in my office. That's not counting Christopher's office, where there's 3 more computers, and there's one downstairs, and there's, I have a desktop and a laptop, and I use them all the time. And that's not counting my tablet, that's not counting a lot of other electronic devices that I use that are not quite full-blown computers, but they're pretty close. So we are now fully connected, and that was something that he didn't really anticipate. He created, well, Apple, actually. There were a lot of people working on it, but I remember Apple, the Macintosh being one of the very first computers with a graphical user interface so that you didn't have to remember all the code. It used to be, if you're under 30, you'll remember. If you're younger, you will not know. But there used to be that you had to know how to, and you had to know the code. So you had to type things in. You couldn't just click an icon. You had to type in commands in DOS. So that was really challenging. It was a lot of work to try to keep that up. That was when I first started studying computers, was way back when I was 10 years old, really, was when I got very, very interested in it, even as early as kindergarten. And that was back in the days of ELISA, which was one of the first AI programs. Tape drives, you talk about slow. And DOS, you had to type everything in, all the commands by hand. Everything was in text. There was no graphics. So we've come from that, and then Apple came out with the Macintosh in about 1984. Do you remember the 1984 commercial? With that, all of a sudden, it became accessible. You didn't have to be a computer expert. You could take a mouse, which was also a new thing, and you could click on an icon like we do today, and it would magically open the program, or later direct you to the web page, and that was all you had to do. You didn't have to tell it to. It was already built in. So it became very accessible for people who were a little bit concerned about computers. My dad, way back in the day, I remember going with him to Radio Shack, and we were looking at a Commodore 64. And yes, I'm very, very much dating myself. And I was all excited about it. I was like running the ELISA program. I was really interested in what it was doing. I was typing on it, and he was terrified that I was going to break this computer. And it was $3,000 then. Okay, it was not cheap. So he was afraid I was going to break what would be in today's money probably close to $50,000 worth of computer. They also started miniaturizing computers, especially the components. So even when I was in college in '85, shortly after the Macintosh came out, we still had mainframes. So I remember going to the computer building, and it was a whole building with a mainframe computer in it, and you had to schedule time to be able to use the mainframe. We didn't have personal computers yet. The Macintosh was the first one that was even remotely affordable. So there were a few before that, like I said, the Commodore 64, there were a few, but it took you had to know computers. You had to understand computer language to be able to do that. Today, we don't have to do that. Today, we can almost tell the computers to program themselves with AI. So some of the things that I have been pondering about why certain people get paid more than others. One is they're providing a valuable service, a service that other people want. I see a lot of people today, younger people, like my kids' ages, my grandkids' ages, yes, I'm totally dating myself, who are, they go in and they take a major to change the world. You can always change the world. You can do it, like I said, small and simple steps. Small things make a huge difference. We don't need the grand gestures, and we certainly don't need the preaching if you don't believe the way other people believe. So if you want to change the world, you provide value. That will, it'll bring you to the public's attention. And you want it to be in a good way. But you have to bring value, and I have seen people major in things that do not bring value to the masses. Now that's fine if you want to go into, I'm going to pick on my dad a little bit, if you want to go into entomology, there are some interesting parts of that, One of my dad's friends was a forensic entomologist, and I don't think anybody knew what that was until CSI Las Vegas came out, and the lead character was a forensic entomologist. And I thought that was fantastic because when I was growing up, nobody knew what entomology was. And for those of you who don't, it's the study of insects. My dad studied weevils in particular, specifically to help save cotton crops in the South. And then, because there's the boll weevils, one that people really think about, but weevils get into everything. And so he was studying weevils specifically. Then he he rejoined the military. He was in the Air Force at 18, got out, married my mom, had a couple of kids, and then decided to join the Army Reserve. By that time, he had his college degree. He had prior military experience, so they took him as a first lieutenant. And his assignments that I remember, and this was when he was a major, lieutenant colonel, and later a colonel, he would go to various areas and study the insects in that area. And then he could tell the doctors, these insects are indigenous to this area, and these are the diseases they carry, so this is what you should be on the lookout for. And if I'm getting this wrong, Dad, I'm sorry. So, but that's not something I would ever have thought to do. And a lot of people, that's not even on their radar. Again, that was a way of bringing value. He goes, tells the Army doctors, this particular kind of mosquito is indigenous to this area. This is how we can abate it. He was also, by the way, in charge of mosquito abatement for the city of Seattle for quite some time in the 70s. And I don't remember ever getting a mosquito bite until we moved to Kentucky. We didn't have mosquitoes there, which was especially interesting because Seattle's basically on the water. So he found a way to bring value through his love of studying insects. Regardless of what your field is, you have to find a way to bring value with it. Now, I'm going to say, if you really want to bring value, you have to bring value to lots of people. It can't just be one, unless that one person is, I don't know, Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates or someone like that. But you have to know how to bring value to a lot of people. Even if you're working for one person, like one of the billionaires that I mentioned, you still have to know how to bring, the whole point of them hiring you is to bring value to them, and in order to do that, you have to bring value to everyone around you. Now, I did this personally by reading. I have been a voracious reader since I was 3 years old, and I am not joking. My dad used to read to us every night, usually Bible stories. So to this day, God's voice in my head sounds like my dad when he drops into his deep register. But he would read to us every night. He would sit with us in church, and that's how I learned how to read music. He didn't even realize he was teaching it. He would follow along with the musical notes, and this is, and the lyrics, and pretty soon I learned that this note means you sing this note. This mark on the paper means this is what it sounds like. By the time I was 3, I was reading fluently. By the time I entered kindergarten, I was reading on the 8th grade level. And most people don't read past the 8th grade level. So if you want to be an author, you have to recognize that most people don't read anything about the 8th grade level of reading. So you want to write your books at about the 8th grade level. If you want to have a more specific niche, that's fine. Ever wonder why college textbooks are so expensive? They have to cover the printing costs. Less so now, thank goodness, but back in the day, I remember paying $300 for a textbook in '85. Because that was a very specific niche. It seems like there's a lot of college students, but it's a very specific niche. And so they would have to charge enough for the book And of course, the fact that it was mandated helped that they could at least recoup their printing costs. And back then, it wasn't horribly, I mean, it was fairly expensive. So I've been a voracious reader. I have been reading constantly since I was 3. I learned how to read at 3. I was reading fluently by the time I was 5. And I laugh and say my parents spent the first 3 years of my life teaching me to walk and talk and read, and the last multiple years of my life, up until until I moved out, saying, sit down, shut up, and get your nose out of that book. But I learned, and I have a great appreciation is not the right word, but lifetime learning is something that I am very much all about. No matter what, I always want to learn something new, something different, and how to be the best at my job. When you have that attitude, you make yourself irreplaceable. So if you want to be the best at your job, your employer is going to notice that, and they're also going to want to pay you more because now you're worth more. I've also seen a lot of videos with, which I do think are kind of cute, where, how do I put this? One employee is really setting boundaries. Boundaries are great, and I 100% agree with them, but some of them are boundaries in this particular case that shouldn't exist. If you are asked to train someone, that's actually a huge vote of confidence that you're good enough at your job that I want you to train the next person at your job. And I have seen some where the employee has said, no, I won't train them because it's not part of my job description. Having someone shout at you is just not that difficult. It baffles me. But if you get to be really good at your job, then you can start commanding a higher salary. The other thing that you have to be able to do is be good at negotiating. You have to be willing to make some uncomfortable conversations about what you're worth. You also may have to be willing to leave your job and go to a different one. Never do that, by the way, unless you have another job lined up or you have a business, if you have, or you want to start a business. Never leave your job until you have your income covered. But you could certainly be willing to leave your job and find somewhere else that is willing to pay you more. In my case, someone very close to me who I know personally has not cracked a book since the mid-'80s is also very jealous of my income. But I've laughed and said, but I've spent 40 years improving my skill set. I've spent 40 years reading everything I can get my hands on. I've spent 40 years literally since I was 3 years old. I have tried to learn more, tried to take more in. I remember going to college the first time back when we had paper catalogs and saying, I want to major in all of this, but unfortunately it's not humanly possible. I've spent my whole life trying to learn, to improve on what I already know, and to learn more things. And all of that leads me to a higher income than this person that's very, very close to me. But she doesn't see that. She sees that I have money and she doesn't. And I'm not wealthy by any stretch of the imagination, but she settled for a $30,000 a year job, and I'm constantly trying to push the envelope. How much more can I make this year? I have my own business. How much more can I make this year? In order for me to make more money, I have to do a couple of things. One is I have to be better this year than I was last year. So every tax season, every 1099, every tax season, at the end of tax season, I sit down and I go, okay, what went wrong? What went right? How can I improve? Because I never want to have the same tax season this year that I did last year. What can I do better? What part of taxation do I need to study more? What do I need to get better at? Do I need to whatever it is. Do I need to manage my time better? Do I need to market more? Do I need to, whatever. I'll sit down and I'll say what went well, what did not go well, how can I be better next year? And I do this all the time. So it's a lot of work. But my goal here is not to just make a whole lot of money for myself. It is to create value for the clients that I serve. And I do that by a lot of ways. One is I start talking to people about what bookkeeping is, what accounting is, what the difference is, and why we are separate from the competition. This is not I never do this as a put down, but I do say this is what separates me from the kitchen table bookkeepers. I have a real business with real employees. I have an office phone, and if I don't answer, somebody will, because that's how it's set up. I have office hours. I have, I pay a lot of money for things to help me do my job better. And I pay a lot of money. At my age, I am still in college because I'm trying to do better every single day. Other things that I do is I also spend a lot of time teaching and training my bookkeepers, kind of going over things. If I see an issue in the books, and I do review them, then I will tell them, these are the issues I see, let's not do this anymore. Let's do this instead. This is going to be a better alternative, whatever it is. A lot of times the issues I see are clients that have entered things into the books, and I'll say, I'll tell my bookkeepers, be on the lookout for recursive transactions. What's a recursive transaction? Well, it's a transaction that goes out of checking and comes into checking in the same transaction, or whatever account it is. We want to be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout for accounts receivable. Do they have any? Do they have undeposited funds? Are you just accepting the bank feeds because they're paying us to be very detail oriented? So I'll go over all of this with my staff every single week. Why? Because I want them also to be better at their jobs every week. Even if it's not a big deal, I want them to be that much better every week. Remember, I talked about small changes add up to big results. So if you want to get paid more, and by the way, the meme that I was referring to, that I was thinking of, was there is a meme about why football players get paid more than our military members. Well, as I come from a military family. I come from a military family that has fought in every single U.S. conflict since the French and Indian War. My father is retired military. His father was in the military. All of my mother's uncles were in the military. All of my dad's uncles were in the military. His grandfather was in the military. His great-grandfather was in the... We have a long, long, long Army tradition. And then my brother is a retired Army captain. And I have been a military dependent for a very, very, very long time. In fact, it's weird that I can't go on base anymore because I have to go through the whole check-in process because I no longer have a dependent ID and haven't for quite some time, but it's still weird to me. Because to me, a military base was it was home. We went there all the time. It was normal to go to the commissary. Anyhow, coming from a long military tradition, the needs of our veterans are always at the top of my mind. In fact, I have made hiring decisions based on someone's veteran status. I put them ahead of someone who is just as qualified. Whether I should or shouldn't is a different question, but the needs of our veterans always go, it's something that's close to my heart. But the taxpayers pay the veterans. That's taxpayer money. And, as I look at the financial situation we have in the States now, I can see why they're not being paid more and why why that's a problem. On the other hand, football players get to where they are, especially the NFL. They get to where they are by being the best. They were the best when they were in grade school. They were the best in middle school. They were the best in high school. They got scouted. They went to college. They got a scholarship because they were so good at playing football. And they entertain millions. Millions. That's why Hollywood makes a lot of money. They entertain millions and millions of people. And millions of people are willing to give them money for this entertainment. That's why they get paid more than military members. When you provide value to, and that is a value. I mean, we talk about it like it's just nothing, but honestly, entertaining people is a skill. It's one that I don't think I have, and it's not easy. It's not easy to sit here in a room by myself talking to my camera. It's not easy to, and I imagine it's even harder to be on a movie set or a TV set with cameramen, soundmen, directors, other cast members, and act. I've done this in community theater. It's not easy. And then to act specifically, to pretend that you're somebody that you're very much not. It's, like I said, that's not an easy thing to do. I was thinking just a few weeks ago about how nice it would be to be a movie star, which I wanted to be when I was a teenager. And I'm now considered way too old by Hollywood standards. But, what if my life had taken a different turn? And then I realized when actors are making movies, they have to be up at 3 a.m. They have to be in makeup. Going into makeup, depending on the picture, can be a many, many hours long process. It wrecks your skin. It can cause you to break out in hives. Some actors have had mental breakdowns because of the roles that they were having to play. I don't think Shelley Duvall ever got over The Shining. I think that kind of led to her mental breakdown over the years. It's a difficult job, and we don't give them a lot of credit for it. So understand, again, that the people that make a lot of money have earned it. They've earned it in some way. They've earned it by providing a service of some kind, even if it's just entertainment, to a lot of different people who are willing to pay them for it. So, why do military members get paid less than football players? Because millions of people around the world are willing to shell out their hard-earned money to go to a football game to be entertained. Or, I don't know, they have the chance to see Taylor Swift. But they are willing to spend the money. They're willing to, and the reason you can't get Super Bowl tickets, the reason they are so expensive, is there's a limited number of them and they're in high demand. So if you want to make a lot of money, the trick here is to provide value to the largest number of people that you can and charge enough that it's worth it. It's worth your time, it's worth your effort, and charge enough that not so much that they're not willing to pay anymore. This is where the law of supply and demand really goes into effect. Accounting is one of those fields where it's becoming more expensive to hire an accountant because accountants are aging out and the demand is high and the supply is declining. So we're going to be able to charge more. Why? Because the person with, this is how we determine, money is just a way to determine value. And this is how we determine who gets what. If something's free, everybody wants it. But maybe it's free because nobody wants it. This is, it kind of goes back to, I've also often said, if I see a new car, even if it's just mine, I drive a 2021 Honda Civic. Nothing fancy. I bought it because I I wanted a new car that nobody else had ever been in. I didn't want to have to deal with maintenance issues, and it had really good gas mileage, which is why I didn't buy a Volkswagen or what were my other options? I was looking at a Toyota, a Volkswagen, or a Honda. And I just liked the look of the Honda better, and it got the best gas mileage out of the three. But Honda Civics are cheap. So, but if I went in and I found a 2021 or a current year Honda Civic for a lot less, they go for about $30,000 right now. If I went into the dealership and they said, we have this one and we're only charging $15,000 for it, that's where you do some comparison shopping. Oh, I know Civics run about 30 grand. If you're selling this for half price, why? Why are you trying to unload it? This is why we have pricing. Why are you trying to unload it? What's wrong with it? And then I may find out that, well, it's not really as new as we thought. It has more miles on it. It was in a wreck. It fell off the truck on the way here. I mean, it could be a lot of reasons. But the first thing I would want to know is if it's comparatively much less than another new Honda Civic, why? Why do people lower prices? To get more people to buy. Because the lower the price, the more available it is. The higher the price, the fewer people can buy it. And so if you have something that has a very small supply and a very high demand, you're going to see higher prices. We see this, they call it price gouging when it happens because of a natural disaster. What it is the law of supply and demand at work. During normal times, you go in and it's what? A couple of dollars to buy a bottle of water. It used to be $1, but inflation has been a thing. But let's say I've stocked up. Let's say I have cases and cases of bottled water in my house, and we have a massive blizzard, or we have an earthquake. We do have earthquakes in Utah. The last one was in March of 2020. And the supply of water has been disrupted. But I have a whole lot of water. What does that mean? That means some of my capital, a lot of my money is tied up in bottled water. I've thought ahead. I've planned ahead. I know I have bottled water. Everybody in my neighborhood wants it, but I'm the only one that has it. Well, what does this mean? It means I'm going to start raising the price. Why? Not to be mean. It's not to be mean. And it's not just because I can. It's because I only have a limited supply, so I want it to go to the people who can pay for it. And money, whether we like it or not, is how we keep track of your value. So yeah, I'm more likely to give water away in this situation to a mom with a newborn. But at the same time, if I have 5 people in line, I have 3 bottles of water, I'm likely to charge more to try to reduce the demand because I have a limited supply. Conversely, if I buy, I don't know, computer chips or potato chips, we'll just do potato chips because it's not political. I have a whole bunch of potato chips in my basement, and there's no demand for them. Nobody wants potato chips. It's the first of the year. Everybody's on a diet. Now if I want to sell them, I have to lower the price. And I might even have to lower the price lower than what I paid for them because I just want to get rid of them. They're taking up room. I've used up my capital, and I need to get rid of them. So what am I going to do? I'm going to lower the price until I can find a price at which someone will take them. And that price may be free, or it might be, $1 a bag as compared to $3 at the grocery store, or it might be less than I paid for it. It might be all the way down to zero. But I want to make sure that I get rid of them because maybe there's something else I want to put in that space, or there's another use of my capital. this is why supply and demand is a thing, and this is also why, again, every time I see the military versus the football players, I'm like, you're comparing apples to oranges. When I go to a football game, I am willingly giving the football players money. When I buy their jerseys, I'm giving them money. I don't have the opportunity to do that for the military. I can't go buy a Purple Heart. That's called stolen valor. I can donate to specific military members, and I do, usually my brother or my dad, but there's no way for me to use my money other than through taxation to support the military or to support military members. There's a few charities out there, but there's no way for me to sell things like football jerseys or football tickets. Or, I mean, they're not going to sell me tickets to go see the war in Ukraine. So that kind of eliminates several revenue streams for military members. And so this is exactly why some people get paid more than others. One, even though I would say the military members bring more value to society than football players, the fact is people vote with their money. And they vote for football. The other fact is that because the military is the military, there's no way for me to vote with my dollars in such a way that, you know, I can't buy uniforms. I can't buy medals. I can buy American flags, but there's not a whole lot of things that I can purchase to support the military. All I can do is pay my taxes. So when you're making these comparisons, you do have to compare apples to oranges. And again, if you want to bring value and make more money, if you want to make more money in your life, you have to bring value to more people. And that really is how you do it. Like I said, in my case, constant reading, constant learning, constant trying to do better, and a very strong drive to be the best at what I do. I never settled. And I make more money than, I don't make a ton of money, but I make more than most women do. I did spend time raising my children. You know, as my children were little, I was able to stay home, but then I created a business that was going to bring value to a lot of people, and that's my goal. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and end this. So I will talk to you again soon.